Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Oh, come on, you can do a little better than that. There you go. There you go. There you go. Yes, I love this term that's been adopted by many people on the station, drinking out of a fire hose. That is the level of information and changes that are coming at you in the first 3 days of Trump administration 2.0. Real quick before I get into my first guest here, the James Show will be live from the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo coming up in just a couple days, January 24th. That's this Friday. My next event, by the way, Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, next to Dickies Arena. I'll be in the exhibit hall in some booth. Come by, say hi, judge me based on my appearance. I don't mind that at all. The James Show listener meetup and birthday bash is coming up this Tuesday, like 6 days from today, at Shaw's Patio, also in Fort Worth on Magnolia Street. Anytime after 7 is good. I'm going to get there around 7, but if you get there at 8 or 9, in fact, try and get there later so maybe some people will filter it out by then. It'll be a little more convenient for the rest of us. And then I'm going to be back at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo next Friday, January 31st. Same exhibit hall next to Dickies Arena. So I'm going to be in Fort Worth 3 times over the next, 10 days. So my Tarrant County listeners, no excuses. Come by, say hi. Now, my next guest is joining me for a victory lap. It is a January 6th political prisoner, Larry Brock. Well, I'm glad to talk to you today, Larry. How's it going?
It's going obviously great. Like you said, the winning just continues. So, like everybody else on Monday, I was pretty much watching the inauguration most of the day. And so I will tell you, we were all waiting, and I was very, very happy when he finally signed that pardon.
So what's it like to be on the receiving end of a presidential pardon?
Well, it's interesting, and I'm going to tell you, I don't know that I feel the same way that most people normally do, because I honestly believe I didn't do anything wrong except exercise my First Amendment rights.
Wait, hang on. You know what? We should do that. For people who haven't heard you on the show before, what was your participation, your level of participation on January 6th?
Walked into the Capitol, protected a Capitol policeman from an Antifa guy trying to hit him, took some selfies, walked onto the Senate floor, told a man to get out of Vice President Pence's chair. And then when I left, I protected a line of police from a guy that was shirtless trying to confront the police. So that was it. That's all I did. And for that, I caught a felony and 5 misdemeanors. And
how much time did you spend in the clink?
Well, it was 2 years was my sentence. And so I spent 372 days inside a federal prison. The rest of the time was served in a halfway house or on home arrest. And then there was some good conduct time that was caught off from that 2 years as well.
So after this presidential pardon, what changes for you? We can't go back and give you those days back, but what's different for Larry Brock going forward?
Well, I tried to go down to Austin and work with the Republicans to get a good, to get Representative Cook elected, and I was denied that. So now I don't have to. I can travel like an American again. I can go anywhere without reporting to or requesting travel permission. The felony was vacated last week, believe it or not. So now I have my right to vote back, which is critical to me. And now with the full pardon and being off of federal probation, I have the right to bear arms again, which is kind of useful considering I got a couple of death threats yesterday. So, the American left is still playing their games.
Let's hear the death threats. What happened?
Oh, just a couple of text messages saying, I hope you get raped by a black transsexual, and I hope your family dies. Just stuff like that.
Oh, that's not very nice. How do they even know who you are?
Well, sir, I'm pretty active on X, as you might have guessed. I actually tagged you on a post. On Monday, I was in the parking lot at FMC Carswell working to help get Jaleese Middleton out of prison, and I had one of the guards not being very cooperative, and so I put something out on X that was actually noticed by some pretty big people inside the state of Texas, and they made some calls, and Jaleese got out. But, that particular post got 3.2 million views, and so I think they were reacting to that post on X.
All right, so what happens next for you, Larry?
Well, sir, I need to get my pilot's licenses back. I need to see what it will take for me to get current again so that I could do that. But I'm going to be honest with you. I have other aspirations now. I really think the country is starved for principled leadership. And so I would like to run for elected office at the statewide level.
Okay. Well, which one would you like to pursue first, being a pilot or being a politician?
Well, you got to have some money coming in.
So pilot first?
To make a living. So, yeah, I'll do that first, but not with the commercial airlines. With private aviation in some capacity.
Yeah. Hey, Brandon, hang on just a second. Brandon, are you listening? Or Brandon's employees up there at the airport, are y'all listening? You need a pilot? You could get a January 6th political prisoner. An American hero is what we have, actually, who Air Force veteran. How much time have you spent behind? You've flown a plane before, haven't you, Larry?
Yeah, just a little bit. I was a 737 captain. I'd say probably I've got about 6,000 total hours. And then 2,800 of them in the world's greatest fighter aircraft ever, the A-10 Thunderbolt.
Well, you're now accidentally part of a prestigious fraternity here. The January 6th political prisoners, you guys actually gave up part of your life, part of your freedom for a cause, and it turns out that at every step of the way, you've been exonerated. You were questioning the Stop the Steal was the name of the rally, and questioning the integrity of the election seems to be the right thing in hindsight, and it seems like you guys were terribly mistreated. And it's not just a political thing. On the personal level, does this do anything to reconcile you with your kids?
No, not yet. I actually spoke with a lawyer yesterday about that. I wanted this to go away because I didn't want to give Judge Lindsey Wynn an opportunity to use it against me again. So now that this is gone, yes, of course, I'm going to start pursuing being a part of my son's life. All
right. Well, this is a guy who has paid the price, not just in time and space and being put in a prison for a year. I mean, family problems, professional problems, and death threats. And this is never going to go away. You're always going to be a J6er after this. You'll never just be a regular old citizen, Larry Brock.
Well, yes, sir. You're absolutely right. But I will tell you, that whereas before the hurricane of negative publicity, and I think the American people didn't quite know what to think, was against us, now I think it's coming to the forefront what actually happened. And I think if we get to the real truth on January the 6th, I think that the American people will look at it very differently. And I'm optimistic now, whereas I was not a few years ago that will happen. I mean, I can't tell you how great November the 5th was for every January 6ther. I talked to a couple of friends, and they said that it was a weight that lifted off their shoulders, and then they were just released from prison yesterday. So it was wonderful.
Well, I'm glad for this positive turn of events. If you happen to stumble into the political arena, we'll definitely have you back on and give you a little bit of pub there. Thank you very much for what you've been through, Larry.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me on your show again.
All right, this is Larry Brock. He was a January 6th political prisoner for over a year for doing nothing but walking through an open door. Your thoughts, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. We're going to go through some more of the executive orders, executive actions, whatnot. I'll get you update on the flurry of activity that's happened since last we sat down for the James Show. But also, I'm making a list. You can help me out with this. I'm going to do this in the last hour, but if you want to go ahead and just send me a Facebook message or an email at james@wbap.com. I'm making a list of things my kids have never seen or done. Like they've never heard a dial tone. They've never seen an answering machine. They've never used a payphone. They've never rewound anything. They've never rented a movie, like physically rented a movie or a video game. And I don't think they've ever used a paper map. My oldest kid's 14. What have my kids never seen? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the accusations that Elon Musk did a Nazi salute, because it's funny. And no one, does anybody really think, does one person think Elon Musk is really a Nazi? Does anyone really think that there's a strong undercurrent of support for the Third Reich in the MAGA movement? It's strong enough that they're willing to do salutes and at the inauguration balls, but not so strong that anyone will actually admit it. Is that the thought process there? And look, I love the breakdown of how, well, did you see his arm? Did you see it in that position? And immediately, the internet ninjas come up with pretty much every person on Team Blue with their arm in that position. And look, you probably already seen it. You probably already looked into it. You probably already saw that right after that he said, "My heart goes out to you." And so it makes sense that he would make a gesture toward his heart and then just sort of, like wave it out to you. My heart goes out to you. It's almost like a very rudimentary sign language. But I'm still on the fence on whether or not these people actually believe it when they say it. Because what we have observed, what you've definitely observed, these people will say things they don't believe if they believe it works out for them politically. If it helps them politically, they'll say the opening ceremony, "Oh, that was Dionysus, not the Ten Commandments or the Last Supper." Or they'll say, "Yeah, we got to lock everything down and wear a mask." And they'll say, "Oh no, that's probably Russian disinformation and not Hunter Biden's laptop." They'll say things whether they know they're true or not, as long as it goes along with the narrative. And that's the problem when you blow your credibility like that. But I still don't know. Do they really think that anyone supports Nazism anymore? Because I'm under the belief no one's a Nazi. No one's that bad anymore. Do you understand how bad the Nazis were? Do you understand how evil Hitler was? Like Hitler, when he started losing World War II, was approached by his generals, and they're like, "We're gonna have to concentrate resources here. We can either, put all of our industrial might toward the war effort or toward the final solution." He's like, "Well, let's take some resources from the war effort and concentrate on the final solution." It's like, oh my God, you'd rather, oh my goodness, to continue with the Holocaust rather than winning the war when you have superpowers beating down both sides of your door? What do you think? Do you think anyone really thinks Elon Musk did a Nazi salute? Got an email real quick. I just wanted to get to you. This is Sylvia. She says, as a caregiver, daughter of a World War II vet who's had to watch thousands of hours of Hogan's Heroes. I guess this does make you a little bit of an expert. And hundreds of hours of World War II shows and documentaries. That was not a Nazi salute. That was a salute. It was so poorly executed, it would have gotten him shot. At best, it could be considered a very sloppy version of a Roman soldier salute, except he didn't have his fist clenched. It was just like you can hear on full tape, the exuberance of expressing his full heart to the crowd. That's from Sylvia, who emailed me, james@wbap.com, and she's seen thousands of hours of Hogan's Heroes, so who are you to tell her no? I'm James Parker. Coming up next, we're going to talk to R.T. Trevino, an oil and gas expert, about what changes are coming to the oil patch. That'll be on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I am your host, James Parker. If you want to jump in on the conversation, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm not the smartest man in the world. In fact, I'm kind of dense sometimes. Not well-traveled, not well-read, but I can be trained. And enough of you told me that I need to start watching Landman that I did. Me and Miss Parker have now seen like the first, I think, 4 episodes of Landman.
Hi, Miss Parker.
And I'm talking to an oil man next here. This is R.T. Trevino with the Crude Truth podcast. He's with Pecos Country Energy, but he also has a podcast on the oil patch called The Crude Truth. Are you watching Landman, R.T.? How accurate is this?
Oh, my gosh. I think that is 90% entertainment, great writing, and 10% accurate in what goes on out in the oil and gas industry.
There seems to be a whole lot of accidents and injuries in the show that I have not observed from my friends in the oil patch in the real world.
Yes, I think they kind of took safety, which is number one at any day and any time. As anybody in the oil and gas industry will say, and it is true that safety is number one. I think they took that element out of Landman and just kind of threw it to the wind. But it wouldn't be much fun of a show, though, would it, if you didn't have all the explosions and all the other shenanigans that goes on.
Well, let's talk about what's happened in the oil patch this week. There's been a lot of executive orders, some of which have to do with your business. What's changed for you out there, RT?
Right now what we're looking at is just a very good consistency. That's the change that I think we're going to be seeing here over a while. It's just nothing but an administration that's willing to work with every industry, not just the oil and gas, but work with every industry to really allow America's economy to thrive and continue to be the strongest economy in the world and be number one.
So in the executive orders that happen, is there anything that y'all have had to pull out of there and put on the bulletin board and tell the company, hey, this rule has changed or we have to do this different? Is there anything that's already been applied in the workplace?
At the workplace right now, we're definitely keeping an eye out on the regulations, of course, that he's done there in Alaska, along with pulling back some of former President Biden's executive orders on like the bans of the LNG permits, along with some of the drilling areas in the Gulf of Mexico. And what we're seeing as
no. Gulf of America.
Oh,
yeah, yes. That was one of the executive orders. That's the new world we live in, RT.
Oh, well, thank you for that one. I missed the Gulf of America, yes. And so the ban, removing the ban on some of the drilling in the Gulf of America. Thank you for catching that, James. And so we're just very excited, and what we're seeing again is just oil prices stable here at about $75 oil, which is going to allow the American economy again to just grow.
All right, so what's on the latest episode of the Crude Truth podcast?
Oh, my goodness. We just got done talking with the president of the Texas Alliance of Energy Producers, Carl Ingham, who is right now fighting for us on the Hill in Washington, D.C., to make sure that these methane regulations that President Biden put in place, along with the Green New Deal, are removed from being in regulation, to remove that red tape. And also we're going to have on one of the best oil and gas lawyers / supporters in the industry from the Texas Star Alliance real soon, named Chris Hosek, who fights for us, all of us independent oil and gas companies here in Texas and across the nation.
RT, we did an exercise on the James Show yesterday where I made you imagine getting in an elevator and then all of a sudden at the next floor, it opens up and Trump and some Secret Service agents get on and you get a chance to talk to him for about 30 seconds before he gets off like 5 floors later. What would you tell him that from the oil and gas industry that he needs to know in a 30-second elevator pitch, RT?
Oh, my goodness. What I would say in a 30-second elevator pitch, thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity. And, you have just done nothing but really put a pep in the step of every American oil and gas worker out there, knowing that they have a president that's fighting for them, and they're working hard to produce an abundant, reliable, and inexpensive source of energy for all Americans and the rest of the world.
All right. Where did they find your work outside of WBAP?
Yes, please check out thecrudetruth.com, where we have all our great episodes of the podcast. Thank you, James, for that. And also for anything oil and gas, check out PecosCountryEnergy.com along with EnergyNewsBeat.com.
All right, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Y'all go have fun out in the oil patch. We got a lot to look forward to.
Thank you.
Yep, and I just actually filled up on some of his product yesterday. So that's RT Trevino, Crude Truth podcast. Coming up next, I've had enough people tell me I need to watch Landman, and I watched about 4 episodes, like half of the first season. I'll give you my thoughts on that, because while it is ridiculous and a little extreme, and hyperbolic's probably a really good word for it, there are some good lessons in Landman that sort of overlap with the geopolitical situation we find ourselves in next. And I'll tie those together coming up in about 4 minutes on The James Show. If you want to chime in, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, help me with this list. I'm making a list of things my children haven't seen. My oldest kid is 14. And I don't know. I just find this fascinating to study here, because it hadn't dawned on me until not too long ago that my kids have never heard a dial tone. And just think about, could you possibly pull anybody aside when you were a child that hadn't heard a dial tone? What about an answering machine? What about a payphone? My kids have seen a payphone, but they've never used a payphone. Yeah, VCR kind of counts, but I mean, that's a little easy, because that's like not just a dead technology. I mean, that was something that was a dead technology before we stopped being kids. That was already replaced. So like, if your kids hadn't seen an 8-track, well, of course they hadn't seen an 8-track. They've never listened to a cassette either. They've barely listened to CDs. But something like that. And it doesn't have to be like a physical thing. Like it could be a concept. But like my kids have never had to rewind anything. Cassette, VHS, 8-track, reel-to-reel. They've never had to Can you imagine that? My kids, they don't even know what rewind is. They think it just means go backwards. My kids have never rented a movie, like physically rented a movie, and then you have to like take it back and drop it in the slot. They've never done that. And I don't think they've ever used a paper map. But if you got anything to add to that list, that's one of the fun side projects we got going on today's show. You can call me 800-288-9227. If you don't feel like hanging on, just tell Garrett and he'll let me know. You can send me a message on Facebook or James at WBAP is my email, whatever you want to get me to. All right, so I had probably a dozen or so people over the last month tell me I need to watch Landman. I did, and it's silly. I like it. It's silly. It's not serious. It is a good show. I'm going to watch all of them, but it's too much. It's like Entourage. It's like it's not really a thing. It's not believable. Everyone's just too witty, and everyone's too beautiful, and everyone's got a button to put on every scene, and so it's not really. But it's still good. I like it. I really just like Billy Bob Thornton. My goodness, that dude. I didn't know I was such a fan of his, but he is hilarious in this. But I do like, here's what I love about this show. I love the glorification of the oil patch. I love the glorification of Texas and Texas culture and that sort of manly cowboy hat wearing, boot wearing, got all dirty looking guys. We don't get a whole lot of shine in Hollywood. We don't get a whole lot of positive coverage in the media. We're usually the bad guy in all the movies. Oh, the dirty guy with the southern accent, has a scraggly beard. Yeah, he's probably the racist idiot that's about to get fired for his job for saying something out of pocket in most movies. But in this one, we actually look cool. Wow, that's so rare. But look, I want to make a connection here that Landman sort of hints at it when they're bragging about the oil industry, but I'm going to be even more hyperbolic than Landman. Have you ever noticed the connection between the success of our domestic energy industry and worldwide terrorism, specifically from the Muslim world? Think about that. When you have an oil man, a pro-oil president in office, terrorists don't do so good. And let's just start this off like after 9/11. After 9/11, there's been no big terror attack in the United States like that. So that's a good like high water mark to start measuring from. But, aside from fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan after 9/11, terrorists weren't doing much for a few years there. Remember when we were kids, hijackings were a semi-regular thing? We haven't seen one in 24 years almost. But then Obama came around and we had Muslim terrorists sort of surging. They had the Arab Spring. They knocked over the moderate governments in Egypt and Libya and Tunisia and took them in a more Islamist direction. Not just the religion, but the people who want to have their political base be a fundamentalist version of that religion. And so then ISIS sprung up, took a bunch of territory in Syria and Iraq, and they almost overthrew Assad back in the day, and they were massacring the Yazidi Christians in northern Iraq. Remember, they had to go hide out on that mountain for a while. Russia took the Crimea under Obama. There's a whole bunch of bad actors, but it seems to be the bad actors who profit off the oil industry. The Muslim world, Russia, right? They kind of acted up for a while when Obama was in power. And then when Trump came in, he wiped out ISIS in a few months. The Syria civil war ended. Israel and Hamas quit slap fighting for a while there. Iran shut up. Russia didn't take any territory, the only president out of our last four. Then Biden comes in. And while he puts his boot on the throat of our oil industry, that other side of the world flares up again. Russia invades Ukraine. Syria civil war starts back up. ISIS has territory again. They've returned. Israel and Hamas are slap fighting again because Iran's funding them to the hilt. And I don't want to give too much credit to who the president is. Oh, it definitely matters. But more so, it's the guys in the oil patch have done more to win the war on terrorism and to put a stamp on terrorism than anyone else. Because I see a connection there. It's an indirect connection. But it's pretty clear. The more you restrict our oil production over here, the more money and power the terrorists and the Russias of the world have over there. And I know it sounds reductive, but it really is that simple, isn't it? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Eric in Weatherford, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Yes, sir. Hey, no, I was going to, for the list, children today don't hear hello?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Telephone.
Oh, man. Oh, you know how awful that was if you wanted to call a girl, like call a pretty girl? It's so embarrassing to begin with, but you got to either talk to her mom or her dad because there's like a 0% chance she's going to answer, or the snotty older brother, who's this? And now everybody's got to know your business. Oh, I hated that. God, I hated that. Our kids are lucky, man.
And I remember when we got a longer cord so I could go in the other room and kind of shut the door and talk a little more.
And it got so bad that Big Sister got her own phone line because she wouldn't get off the phone. I'm expecting a call. Oh, man, before call waiting. I mean, there were families that probably got divorced over that. Great addition to the list. That's Eric in Weatherford. Get to the phone. That's on the list. If you got anything to add, 800-288-9227. I knew that would be a good list. I'll share some of the other recommendations I'm getting. Also, Chicago is coming to Lucas Oil Live in WinStar World Casino and Resort March 29th. You get tickets now at winstar.com, or you can text the word Chicago to 800-288-9227. Either the word Chicago for the band or the word Chicago for the city. We will accept both. You text the word Chicago to 800-288-9227 for a chance to win a pair of tickets. If you want to go see them, might as well get free tickets from us. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All you people on hold to add to the list. We're going through, if you're just joining us, me and Miss Parker were having a good time this weekend, listening to a bunch of things that are...
Hi, Miss Parker.
Every time, huh? Listing out things our kids hadn't seen, because we had to explain some stuff to our kids. We had to explain to them what a collect call was and what a long distance call was. And so I'm just asking you, what are some things, because my oldest kid is 14 and it's kind of mind blowing. I had a good one. Brenda on the break sent in a Facebook message saying our kids have never seen one of the cigarette lighters that you find in a car, the old car cigarette lighter. That's a good one. I thought of another one too. My kids don't have any ripped ticket stubs. Like, when was the last time you went to a high school football game? You don't get a paper ticket. You got to get some stupid QR code for your phone before they let you in. And this isn't a game in Buck Tussle. This is like, we barely have electricity and like indoor plumbing out there. But you got to get a QR code. Not even for like the varsity game. To watch my nephew's junior varsity soccer game, I had to get a QR code to make sure I paid my $2 to get in. No, my kids that have no ripped ticket stubs. Not for a concert, nothing. Let's ask my next guest. James Varney from Real Clear Investigations. Have y'all done any investigations on what your kids haven't seen? I mean, your kids are a little older than mine, but what do you think? What's your addition? What have kids these days not seen that was everywhere when we were kids?
Well, I'm not sure I can think of something right off the top of my head, but just listening to you, it reminds me what's happening right here is they're not familiar with snow days down here. I can tell you that.
Oh, shut up. Varney's down in the New Orleans area, and our neighbors in Houston and New Orleans and the Gulf Coast, they all have snow and we don't, and I'm terribly jealous.
Right, and they all got snow days, which are awesome. I remember listening to the radio and just waiting. Well, there's something. Nobody listens to the radio unless they're in the car.
Well,
right?
look, here's something my kids have never seen, because I didn't really see this when I was a kid. We haven't had any gas lines. Now, you saw that.
That's an improvement.
But you saw gas lines when you were a kid.
I did. Not often, but I did. I remember those, yeah.
Did it only happen like twice?
I just remember one in the early 70s or the mid-70s.
I think there was like
something you'd see a lot more of, though, if they made us all drive electric cars. Well, how are you going to have that work on a highway?
So, and then let's use this to make a beautiful segue into your latest piece on Real Clear Investigations, Drill Baby Drill.
Oh, well, thanks. Oh, by the way, also thank you, congratulations on your anniversary. I meant to tell you that for the show. Congrats.
Oh, yeah, the James Show first birthday.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, basically what we were talking about, and you're right about the EVs being a good segue, is just some of the steps that Trump might take to try and get us back towards affordable, abundant energy as opposed to this huge emphasis and incredible mountains of spending solely on renewable energy. You know, the Biden administration was really kind of putting the thumb on the scale in favor of that. and it kind of warped the market. So it will be interesting to see what steps he can take. He's already done some. I'm sure you guys have been talking about this blizzard of executive orders that we knew would come in the first couple of days. And several of them are related to energy.
Yeah, the one of the ones that I think is the no-brainer is drilling in ANWR, the Alaskan National Wildlife Reserve. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to drill there, then you just don't want to drill you're just against oil, and your opinion means nothing to me. It can't get more remote. It can't get more safe. It can't get more removed from the human experience with the least amount of ecological footprint than drilling in the Arctic Circle up there.
I think you're exactly right, too, when you say that if you're telling me that you're just against oil. And, of course, some of them are quite honest about that, right? They're like, just leave it in the ground. That's kind of a subset of all these environmentalists. But when it comes to Alaska, somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 30% is all we're apparently using of the pipeline that's been built up there in Alaska. So it can carry a lot more than it is right now. To my knowledge, there's never been any major environmental mishap. I mean, God forbid, right, that you say that. But in any event, like you said, it's been safe. It's proven safe for decades. So there's something that we could definitely jumpstart and get a lot more going quickly. And that's probably something that he'll do. The Biden administration had the legal minimum was what they put up for auction this month in one of their last acts after not holding any for more than a year leases. But in Alaska specifically, they only did the bare minimum that the law required them to do. And they made much of the fact that there wasn't a lot of bidding on that. But if you talk to the oil companies, they'll tell you that it wasn't very good lots. They deliberately picked some spots that geologically don't look the most promising up there. And that sort of explains the tepid response. If Trump were to make a lot more of what's already supposed to be available up there, I think we would see some drilling.
All right. Well, Trump promised to cut the price of energy in half. Was he talking specifically about a barrel of oil? Because, I guess what is it, about 75 right now? So I guess
it's been right around there.
I guess it could get down to like 37 or whatever. But do we even want it that cheap?
It has been as low as 36 historically. That's the lowest price I can remember. I suspect that some of that was campaign bluster on Trump's part, right? I don't think you and I are about to see $1.25 gas again. I really don't. But if you look at things like AI and these data centers, Trump announced, I think it was $20 billion of foreign investment building data centers here in the U.S. Some of them might actually be in Texas. Well, the energy needs, they tell us, for these things are enormous. The AI is supposedly a voracious consumer of energy, right? So if you have all of this new demand coming onto the system, simply increasing what we're able to produce now will at least keep prices where they are. Because one of the things that you want to try and do is control inflation and bring prices down. If you can, at a minimum, stabilize the price of energy, that will make that much easier. And then, of course, whatever reductions you might really get would be lagniappe.
Are we going to finish the Keystone XL pipeline?
I don't think so, James.
What's the holdup there? We got like 4 years, right?
Right. I don't know for sure. But the people that were going to build that, they've walked away. They were on such a yo-yo between getting permits and then getting approvals. And they were getting green lighted, and then they got red lighted, and then they got green lighted, and then Biden red lights it again. And I think they've walked away from it. So I don't think the XL pipeline is coming. I could be wrong, but there will be other pipelines. And of course, we will also see LNG is going to increase. I don't know if you saw the story this week that Speaker Johnson said he was meeting with Biden, and Biden didn't know he'd signed the executive order stopping LNG export facilities.
Oh, I did not see that. We got to stop picking on that old guy. He's out of here, and that's just starting to break my heart. Varney, I'm about out of time. Where can they find your work outside of WBAP?
They can find it at www.realclearpolitics or realclearinvestigations.com, and I appreciate you giving me the time. Thanks.
Yep, he's got a great article there about the Drill Baby Drill on realclearinvestigations.com. James Varney, go check him out. All right. If you want to jump in, I have some people that are going to add to the list of things our kids have never seen. If you're just joining the show, we were just regaling our own nostalgia. My kids have never used a paper map. My kids have never physically rented a movie. My kids have never rewound anything. They've never made a long distance call. They've never ripped the ticket stub. They've never heard a modem connection, that squawky, awful sound that used to be everywhere. Anyone over a certain age, we all know that sound. My kids don't. What are you adding to that? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.